You're listening to The Moose and the Loose, your 10 minutes action-packed financial podcast with your host, Mike Yahoo.
Hey, what's up, Market Moose? Mike from the Moose on the Loose. I hope you're doing well on this Monday. Last week, I had a very cool webinar with Dividend Earner. I had a lot of fun. We talked about the best stocks to buy for 2025. I've shared my buy process. And as you know, at the end of those webinars, there's always a Q&A session, a live Q&A session. And I love to get questions from attendees because I feel that I have a little bit more time to talk about my strategies, talk about my ways, and try to help other investors as much as I can. And one interesting question that I had last week was, do you invest only in dividend stocks? And there's a lot of investors thinking, and a lot of financial planners will tell you, if you just focused on a specific type of companies, like in my case, I focus on dividend growers, there is a big downside. And the big downside is you lack of diversification. Yes and no, I would say, because yes, you have to pass on some companies, but let's be honest, whatever metrics or filters or strategies that you put in place, you will automatically discard some companies. So some will go for momentum. So a company that has no momentum will never be on the radar. Some others will go like me for dividend growers. So they will pass on great companies like Tesla, for example, which I will never analyze unless they decide to pay a dividend. So I'm kind of happy to see that Google, Alphabet and Meta decided to pay a small dividend. So then they are on my radar. But most of the time, I will have to pass on those great companies as well. But here's the thing, you're still diversified because you can find companies in pretty much all sectors and all industries to build a wide diversified portfolio. Right now, I am covered on all sectors. So I have investment in the 11 sectors and I have less than 40 stocks in my portfolio. And still I'm able to cover a lot of ground with this. So back to the question, am I only invested in dividend paying stocks? No. So I'm not. The goal, the way I've shaped my portfolio is I want at all time, no matter what's going on the market or in my life, I want to have over 90% of all my money invested first, so no cash, and invested in dividend growers. And I always do that. So you're probably going to ask me, where's the 10%? We're going to get there in a second. So the 90% ensures that my global strategy is simple to follow. It is clear. I don't have to go from oh, maybe I should invest in ETFs, or, oh, look at Tesla, it's going back up, or look at this, or look at that, or should I invest in Bitcoins? Or no, I just keep it simple. I mean, are those companies well diversified across multiple industries? Yes. Do they have strong dividend triangles? Yes. Well, do I understand their business model? Yes. Okay, therefore they're on my portfolio. End of the story. Keep it simple. It works. It doesn't require me to spend hours and hours and hours every single day. I only spend a couple of hours every quarter to monitor my portfolio, and it makes my life not only simple, but over time, I was able to prove to myself that this strategy worked for me. So I don't need to prove it to the world, because between you and me, how much returns I made last year, I mean, it will only impact my portfolio, right? It's not going to affect yours, and it's not going to affect yours going forward, because what happened in the past happened in the past. So maybe I was a king last year, and maybe next year I'm going to be a poor investor. Who knows? But one thing that I know for sure is I've been following the same strategy for more than a decade now. It's working incredibly well when the market is up and when also the market is down. I feel comfortable with that, and that is the key. So the key is not my strategy, but the key is to find one that you will be able to talk like this on a podcast or just with your friends. So back to where in the world I put the other 10%. So the full 10% is always is an amount that can move. It's not fixed, and that is the maximum actually that I can see from my portfolio that is not invested according to my core strategy. At the time of recording, right now, this morning in October, I only have 4% of my portfolio that is not invested in dividend-paying stocks. So I have 96% following my strategy. Some including, though, in that 10% that I usually have a wiggle room is I use all of that for speculative plays. So right now I have for 7.5% of my portfolio invested in speculative plays, including about that 4% that is not aligned with my strategy. So long story short, that 10% is either for companies that I intend to hold maybe 1 or 2 years and that's it, or for I don't know, I wouldn't call them unicorn, but like exceptions, just exceptions in my portfolio. So right now, the exception in my portfolio that is not paying a dividend, it has been there for a long while, it's Amazon. And I bought Amazon around 2016 or 2017 after I reviewed Walmart and Target. And my angle of those stock analysis back then was which company will perform best online. And I came to that analyst, like the conclusion of my analysis back then is Amazon's going to win. Walmart's going to be a strong number 2, so they're going to be able to survive. And actually, they've been doing incredibly well using their store network as distribution hubs. So that works very well with online and still have this brick and mortar presence. And then Target, I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in this one. So far, so good. Amazon has been doing well. Interestingly enough, the cloud business is taking a lot more space in investors' mind and in the company's profit. So that was not part of my analysis back in 2016, 2017. I didn't think that it was going to be like the major growth vector. So sometimes, you're right, even if in the end you were kind of wrong. But the point was, I really thought I was buying a winner here. I sold half of my position at one point to cover the investment that I made, just because it was more a speculative play and not something that is aligned with my strategy. So for those plays, my rules are simple. I don't want them to be big, so most of the time they will be 1 or 2% per idea of all my portfolio. So not just my pension plan that I report on the Dividend Guy blog, but really all my assets. That includes my RRSP, my non-registered, the Smith maneuver, the pension plan, everything. And then when I have 1 or 2% per idea, I don't want to have more than 5 ideas at the same time, because those require more time. I need to monitor them, and I want to make sure that I'm not losing money on those as well. And if I see a nice price bump, I might just sell, because the goal here is to have fun, is to entertain myself, and just to grab some great opportunities on the market. Why did I set those rules? Those rules could be completely different for somebody else, right? You could decide to have 20% or 25% of your portfolio that is not aligned with your current core strategy, and that's totally fine. The point here was to give myself guidelines. So right now, if I'm at 7.5%, I have room for one more pick, one more idea, roughly 2%, and then I would be very, very close to that 10%. I cannot add more. Imagine that I would be 5 ideas, 10%. If I find another interesting play on the market, I must sell one in my portfolio. So if one goes in, one must go out. So the idea here is I will never wake up one day having 25% or 30% of my portfolio invested here and there without a strategy, kind of like a bundle here that has completely no sense when you put it together. And that's the whole point of having a strategy, right? You cannot ask your portfolio to play on different ways all the times and do a big mix, because in the end you're going to counter some of your own strategies, and you will not likely have a great result. Maybe you're going to be okay. I mean, over the past few years, everything has worked, right? So it's hard to test a strategy because a monkey would have made money on the market. But having clear guidelines will simply help you spend less time on your portfolio and feel more comfortable with it. So that's why I use those 10% rule with 5 ideas maximum, just to keep my life simple. All right, Moose, that's enough for today. I hope that you will enjoy your day, and we're going to talk again tomorrow. Until then, don't forget to stay invested.
Hey, welcome to the disclaimer. If you're listening to The Moose and the Loose, you cannot really expect me to give you buy or sell recommendation or financial advice, right? You're here for fun, you're here for information and some entertainment. But I am not your financial advisor, I am not your broker, so therefore I'm not liable if you're losing money after listening to the podcast. If you're looking for some advice, go see a professional. If not, you can enjoy the show and do your due diligence after it.